All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We're talking about the International Day of Persons with Disability, but we'd also like to hear their views on the political situation in the country, as we'd like to hear yours as well. At Trevor Mbija, at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. Let me introduce my guest one more time. Moses Kilonzo is here. He's a chairperson, Persons with Disability Lower Eastern. Ashura Michael is also here, member, National Government Affirmative Action Fund. Helping me with the translation is George Wambu. We're still waiting for Isaac Mwaura, as a nominated senator. As soon as he comes in, he will join the discussion straight up. Let me start with you, Kilonzo. What do you make of the political situation right now in the country?
Kenya has always been a political country. You know, politics starts immediately elections end. And so looking at Kenya today, we already got into the campaign mode, you know, immediately after 2017 elections, and that's what we've been through. And it's jaw-dropping, actually, when IEBC said, you know, these presidential aspirants have started their campaigns before its time. And, you know, I expected maybe IEBC to bar some people, or all of them, because they have been in the campaigns. But IEBC seemed to be saying, I know you guys want the people who will adhere to, you know, to the laws, who would strictly be following our constitution, but how watu hatuna, we only have this is what we have, and hawa tu ndio tuko nao wenye tunaweza provide for now. So politics in Kenya right now is on its peak, actually, if I may say, and going forward, we are, I think, 8 months to the next elections, and people seem to have started making choices. You know, when you walk around, you know, the youth, persons living with disability, kila mtu seems to be, and the crowd right now, actually, the voters out there are informed better than any other time in this country. So even these politicians, they know they are dealing, you know, with informed public, and that's why they are trying maybe to, you know, bring these economic models, try, you know, to convince people, I do this, you know. Today's politics are issue-based, if compared to the past elections. And so going forward, we expect to see more of this, and maybe, you know, politicians trying to package themselves, you know, as having the silver bullet to all the problems that we've been having in this country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ashura, let me bring you in on this one. What do you make of the political situation today?
Thank you very much, Trevor. My thoughts on the situation in Kenya. We are a democratic country, and this election is going to be different from the previous ones. As my colleague has said, now we have many people who are much more aware about the process. However, the other issues we have probably is the misunderstanding of the campaign situation. It is bringing more division amongst ourselves as we talk about bottom-up economy, which is bringing some kind of separation, of segregation of the people. So I think, the condition need to work on in Kenya is that people need to, like myself, I'm more excited about the presidential campaign that is coming. Because people want to leave their legacy, other than focusing about the situations at hand. We need to think about developmental issues now more than before. What we expect in this time around, when people enter into the office, is to change the country, other than focusing on themselves. Because most of the politicians have self-interest other than the care of the people. Like now, recently IEBC came up with a youth committee, and this committee is limiting the young people to participate, and they're blocking them from the advocacy issues of the 2022 politics.
And that's an interesting thing, because when you say, Ashura, that politicians only have self-interest, how much of that is to blame on the people? Because they are the ones who elect the current politicians, who you say only have self-interest.
Yes, somehow, yes. That will be our problem. Because we have, as Kenyans, must decide what we really want. If we want a better Kenya, or we want better individuals, Kenyans should think about the people who they are thinking about their interests. Because it's a democratic country and everyone can participate, everyone can be a candidate, presidential candidate. We need to decide who the best person is to vote for. We need to look, is this a person who's going to impact our life? Is this the person who has interest of the people at heart? Do they have a dream for Kenya? Or when you're talking about bottom-up economy, Kenyan people have a very innovative. Recently, if you can remember, the American university complained that the youth who are doing exams for American people, that means Kenyans have very innovative people. Other than talking about just wheelbarrows and these things, Kenyan youth have more skills. They are very innovative. They have come from poor families and grown to be people who are important people in the country. We have things like the Ajira. It is based for people who can work even online. So the youth can do a lot of things if given the chance. But if you look, if you want Kenya to go forward, we cannot go down. We need to empower the youth and give them opportunities. The new technology coming, they can become teachers, they can go to sports and all the other things. So we need to have a dream for the youth of Kenya. And when you have a big dream, then Kenya will go forward.
All right. Kilonzo, you are running for office, right? How easy has it been as a person living with disability running for office? And what do you think needs to be done to ensure that it's a smooth sail and a level playing field for everyone?
Trevor, politicians in this country have perfected the art of conning their way into office, and that has left the persons living with disability, somehow disadvantaged, because they use a lot of money, to convince people. They bribe voters, and, they make the campaigns extremely expensive. And so for a person living with disability to have such hefty sum, maybe to do their campaigns, it's a bit hectic, bearing in mind that persons living with disabilities do not have these big jobs. It's hard for us, to be entrusted with jobs that can give us, considerable amounts to do these campaigns. And then again, convincing people that I am a visually impaired person and I can do ABCD, I can do whatever anybody else can do. It takes a lot of explanation, it takes a lot of convincing, and many people do not know some things about people living with disabilities. And disability did not come into this world yesterday. It was there way back. Even when you read the Bible, you see Jesus Christ, akiponya the blind, you see physically challenged persons in those ancient days. And then it tells you that living with a disability is not new in this world, but people look at us as if we are from another planet, as if we are aliens, as if, we don't belong to this world. And so it takes a lot of effort and a lot of convincing that to explain to people that I can do what you can do, And Trevor, something I must point out is that persons living with disability possess, very unique talents, and these are things that people do not understand. For instance, in our African culture, and our forefathers, realized this, and when we are talking and when we are doing things, we do quote, quotes from, the wise people, and this tells us that, and these quotes are true, in Swahili, you would call them methali, the proverbs. And so there's a story that has always been consistent in Africa about persons living with disability. It's a story just to show the talents that people living with disabilities possess, and it's an African story. I know it exists in almost every community in Africa. It might variate, but depending on from where you come from.
Yeah.
But actually the framing of the story and the moral of the story is the same. It's a story about a giant, that used to kill men in a certain village, and then men would go and try to pursue the giant, try to kill the giant. The giant would kill all the men, and in that locality there lived a young, mono-eyed youth. And it was important in this story to say mono-eyed, because if they had said he was totally blind, then there was no way he was going to pursue the giant. So it's a story about visual impairment, and so saying he was mono-eyed, it's just to symbolize he was visually impaired. And so the story, depending on where one comes from, the mono-eyed youth, pursued the giant.
Yeah.
There are different ways, versions of how the mono-eyed youth killed the giant, and the giant, before dying, said, before I die, do this, and all the men that I swallowed would be risen again.
Yeah.
And then the story has many variations, but this story teaches us that youths who are physically challenged, and this is a story that was crafted by our forefathers, who wanted actually to teach the coming generations the talents possessed by a physically challenged person, that when you have a visually impaired person in your community and he is perhaps youthful, then that person is very resourceful in that community, in that they can kill the giant, that is swallowing everybody in that locality. Okay. And so it's very important, and it's very shameful for these leaders, to turn a blind eye to such facts. And it's jaw-dropping, really, to see this country, as we move forward, persons living with disabilities are just not seen as, as important as everybody else. Because even the print media, just a footnote, even the print media, I'm looking at the newspapers today. As I walked in here, I wondered, it's International Disabilities Day, and even our print media is not doing even a copy of Braille, newspaper. And you tend to wonder, is the visually impaired in this country not, or rather, is this print media not thinking about the visually impaired in this country?
Okay.
And so it's a pathetic situation, Trevor.
All right. Ashura, let me bring you in on this. We're talking about the race to Statehouse on this International Day of Persons with Disability. When you look at the crop of leaders who have presented their credentials, do you feel represented?
That one, not really. I think we're still lagging behind. But the good thing is that I'm happy that most of the groups have disability ideas in mind as they move. Persons with disabilities also need to come out to participate. For instance, the National Youth Council has an election underway, and the counties need to take a representative from each counties. So we also need to come out, because the opportunity will not come for us. We need to look for these opportunities. All the groups who are recruiting people with disabilities, the people with disabilities are there to be recruited, to be candidate. But we need to come out in high numbers for us to be seen, and we need to be active participants and represent ourselves and present our issues very clearly.
Well, Ashura, when you look at the kind of coalitions that are supposed to be built, now the president said that young people are rushing too much, that they need to slow down. What do you understand from that, and do you agree with those sentiments? Because there was a rebuttal from the deputy president saying it is now time to start this conversation from the grassroots.
Yeah, the president has a point. The president has a point. Because we have many things that we can do, but sometimes politics misuse the young people. Then they later discard them. So I think he has the dream to see the young people becoming leaders. That's why I'm saying the young leaders should participate in different situations, take up positions. But currently, the politicians they started their politics very early. And this can bring a lot of violence in Kenya, because 70% of the people are the youth. And by the end of the day, the country will fail. So the young people, yes, they can be in leadership positions. The motivation should be there, but then again, we need to move in a considerable pace. Young people can participate and become leaders, but we need to go at it step by step. But if we go in a rush, we'll lose the dream. So we need to think about the future of the country and where we want to go as a country. And that's where the young people should participate and put their focus in. So we need to go at a considerable pace and avoid being misused by other politicians.
All right, on that note, let me take a quick break here on Daybreak. When you come back, we're talking about the International Day of Persons with Disability, but we're also getting a feel of what they think in terms of the political situation and how much participation is there and what more needs to be done and how much has already been done. We're looking for solutions here, but we'll keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. Honorable Isaac Mwaura, nominated senator, is now joining us right after this break.